Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 22nd, 2025 regular session City Council meeting. I would like to call this to order and to let you know that if you are viewing it at home, you can view it on the city's YouTube channel. You can also view it on the longmontpublicmedia.org/watch channel or on Comcast channels 8 or 880. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor Peck.
Thank you. Here.
Councilmember Christ.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring.
Here.
Councilmember McCoy.
Present.
Councilmember Popkin.
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Yarbrough.
She was here.
She was here.
She's not going to be here for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Mayor, you have quorum.
Thank you. Let's stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilwoman Yarbrough is picking up her mother from the airport, so she will not be at tonight's meeting. As a reminder to the public, in accordance with Council's rules of procedure, the rules for public comment are as follows. Only Longmont residents and employees of the City of Longmont may speak during the first call public invited to be heard. You must provide your address on the sign-up sheet before the meeting, and each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Anyone may speak on second reading or public hearing item, and you're asked to add your name to the speaker list for that specific item before the meeting, and anyone may speak during final call public invited to be heard. Members of the audience shall refrain from disruptive, vulgar, or abusive language, applause, heckling, or other actions that interfere with the orderly function of the council. May I have a motion to approve the July 8th
So moved.
minutes?
Seconded.
So those minutes were moved by Councilor Chris, seconded by Councilor McCoy. Is there any discussion or comments? Seeing none, let's vote. And those passed unanimously. The next thing that we have on our agenda are agenda revisions and submissions of documents. Do we have any revisions?
We have no revisions.
Thank you. Do we have any motions from councilors to direct the city manager to add agenda items to future agendas? Councilor McCoy.
I'd like us to consider creating a new city ordinance to address the following issue. I'd like us to develop an ordinance for a system that provides an alternative way for community members to support individuals experiencing homelessness without direct street-level cash exchange. This would include installing signage with a QR code, a shortened URL, or a text-to-donate option at common locations. Funds collected would be placed in a dedicated city account and distributed annually through the Housing and Human Services Advisory Board to local nonprofits such as the R Center, Longmont Hope, or similar organizations specifically for the services that provide food, shelter, clothing, and support to unhoused individuals. The goal is to encourage compassionate giving while ensuring funds are used for constructive, accountable purposes. I can, Krista, send you that if you'd like me to.
Yes, please.
It is sent.
Councilor McCoy. I'm sorry, Councilor Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. Thank you, Councilmember McCoy. Interesting motion. Can you elaborate on two things for me? One, what's the goal of this, or what's the problem you're trying to solve for here specifically? And then the second question is, in terms of the strategy you're taking, I'm curious if this is borrowed from somewhere else that you've seen it used. Is it kind of what efficacy you've seen with that, and kind of why now?
I had the great opportunity to go to the neighborhood group leaders meeting. Thank you, Mayor Peck, because and it was brought to me by a member of the neighborhood group leaders in regards to how it was being done in another community, and it was sort of thing that reduced the distribution of actual cash at exit at stores and places like that as people exited in their cars, at the handing off of dollar bills and things like that, and made it easier in an ever-changing cashless society, that for people to actually give to actually help people get out of the situation of homelessness. So it wasn't my idea, but it was a good idea.
Councillor Christ. Do I have a second for this motion?
I'll second it for the discussion. I think
Thank
should have
you.
seconded it
Thank you.
first. but-
How do you perceive donations of food would be handled? I do see some people handing out food to.
That probably wouldn't be handled this way. This is specifically monetary transactions.
And would there be punitive action against someone handing
No.
out cash? No, it just offers an alternative.
Just offers as an alternative.
Okay. I'm in favor.
So this motion, and I'm going to read it. Thank you for putting this up, because I was waiting. I didn't know how to say it. So the motion by Councillor McCoy is to develop an ordinance for a system that provides an alternative way for community members to support individuals experiencing homelessness without direct street-level cash exchanges. An idea, this could include installing signage with a QR code, short URL, or text to donate option at common panhandling locations. Funds collected would be placed in a dedicated city account and distributed annually through the Housing and Human Service Advisory Board to local nonprofits such as the Hour Center, Longmont Hope, or similar organizations. Specifically for services that provide food, shelter, clothing, and support to unhoused individuals, the goal is to encourage compassionate giving while ensuring funds are used for constructive, accountable purposes. Councillor Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. Two more questions that I have here. The first is, the city already has numerous different pathways for supporting organizations that provide human services. And I'm wondering, one, is this type of solution the best thing for the city to lead on? And my second question is, we recently actually had, what was it, a month ago, another ordinance discussion debated about the strategies to manage certain homeless activity and our code compliance. And I'm just curious, one of the things I took away from that conversation was we should be proactive in talking with the providers here. And I'm so curious what conversations you've had with Hope or our center or other providers here in advance of this.
I have not had a direct conversation with them, but I know that the need is out there in previous conversations with them. I know that people want to give. They have a desire to give. It's very clear that people wouldn't stand on the street corner if there wasn't that desire to give. And I think that there's a benefit to the community knowing that if you really want to give additionally to organizations like this, you can. It gives that pathway that allows that to be done as people are thinking about it, not at the end of the year or anything else like that, but at the time of. It's an emotional thing to hand somebody $1. It's also an emotional thing to decide that if you see this, you go, oh, there is an alternative way of giving in a positive way, and it would be distributed the way we handle it today, in a way that I think people can get their heads around.
Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring.
So I have a couple of questions on, well, one, staff capacity to pull together an ordinance and current staff ability to oversee these funds. Or, if it does go through Housing and Human Services, then essentially it goes back to that pile of the grant giving. So it might not necessarily go to the Our Center or Hope Longmont. But first I want to ask about the staff capacity to pull together an ordinance and the oversight and management of this.
So in terms of an ordinance, one of the things we were just talking about is we're not sure that the ordinance is the mechanism to do it. It could be a resolution or something else. So
Okay.
a resolution's easier than an ordinance. So if there's some flexibility in evaluating what tool or what method to use, that would be helpful for us. The second piece on the capacity, I would need to get with Eliberto and Christina and then our comms folks. I know we've done something similar to this in the past where we had granola bars and other things that we handed out, so I don't know that it would be much of a pivot. It would be some design work. The big question is how the funding will be allocated. They could move it into Health and Human Service Fund with a specific allocation for those dollars, and as they're allocating it out, because about 46% of the Health and Human Service funding from council direction is going into groups that support the unhoused community. I think it's 46, maybe say plus or minus 3%. So we could put it into that pool of funds as well.
Okay.
So on the surface, there's processes already in place where
Yes.
it could fall into. I think I would need a little bit more depth and some flexibility to talk to them and get that information, and then talk to our comms folks, because I can't tell you off the top of my head right now
Okay.
what that looks like or how long it would take.
Okay, because I like the premise, I like the idea of this, but I feel like there was some kinds of systems in place anyways, and I don't want to duplicate efforts or add another layer of complication in this process. So if there's a willingness to.
Well, I'm willing to, do
I would
whatever-
support that, yeah.
Whatever flexible approach, whether it be a resolution or whether it be an ordinance, leave it to staff to determine would be the best mechanism, and to use what we're already doing in place, not trying to recreate the wheel.
So I think I understand what you want to do, and I think it's a good idea. And we've had, like Harold has said, discussions on a better way to do this. And the QR code is a good idea, but putting that at intersections where homeless is, when people are in cars, I doubt if they're going to get out and take a picture of a QR code. But I would suggest talking to Christina and Eliberto first and think about maybe a QR code in the city line. For a place because that goes to everybody in the city, and with an explanation and.
Well, I'm just trying to
So-
make it where it's available, maybe in a couple different places where when people are, sometimes there's a passenger in the car that would do the transaction on behalf of them. That was kind of the idea that when people are in a giving mood, if you're willing to open up the window, hand the few dollars at the transaction, this is that transaction mindset that putting that code there allows that transaction to occur in a positive way.
Okay, let's vote.
Are we going to, did you want to amend it? or
Yeah,
do
I
you-
think we
okay.
amended, I'm sorry, I thought you
What
were,
was the amendment?
I would like to amend it to a resolution that gives staff the capacity a flexibility to
Okay,
come back with.
yeah, whether it be an
solutions.
ordinance or a resolution.
so we need to vote on that amendment. It's,
No, if we both agree on it, do we
Yeah.
have
Do you
to?
accept it as a
I
friendly
accepted
amendment?
it, I do. Streamline things.
so it was amended, this starts out. It starts out normally to please develop an ordinance. So now we're going to change that to create a new resolution to address the following issue.
Or,
A resolution or ordinance.
yep,
Does that
that
fall in line?
satisfies me.
Okay, so let's vote. And that passes 4-2 with Counselor Yarbrough absent, with Counselor Popkin and Counselor Rodriguez in a opposing position. Thank you. I also would like to request or move that during our budget process, I would like to have a line item budget for next year based upon this year's airport finances and debts and accounts receivable, basically, including in there what staff time, what that amounts to as far as extra time that they need to put on to run the airport, so that we can make a good decision for next year in the budget.
Do you need a second? I'll second.
Okay, I made that motion, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring. Is there any discussion? Councilor Popkin.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just not seeing this on my screen, so I'm just curious if you could repeat the motion again.
Sure.
Thank you.
I move to direct staff when we are in the budget process to give us a line item budget for the airport. Accounts receivable, how much money are we putting into the airport? How much money are they spending? How much do they receive, et cetera, et cetera.
Gotcha, thanks. And my understanding is that we generally have a line item budgeting process. Is it different on a per fund basis or for a particular facility? Like, is this a particular departure?
No, we do provide the line item budget, but I think the motion is to have a specific section just going over the airport budget.
Gotcha.
In a little more detail.
Thank you.
Councilor Christ.
My question is it only for the airport, or are we going to look at all line items?
My motion is for the airport.
You have no concerns about other enterprise
I
funds?
do, but that would be a different motion. This motion is just for the airport.
Okay.
So we provide you, as we're going through the process, with a line item budget for the areas that we're going over. And then we provide an overview, and as we're going through the budget process, we give you all the ability, as you're looking at that, to ask us specific questions in that. So that is part of the information that we're providing as we're moving through our presentations.
And you would generally have line items for enterprise funds?
Yes.
All of them?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, let's vote.
Did we have a second?
Yes.
We did, Mayor Pro Tem. And that passes 5-1 with Councilor Yarbrough absent. And Councilor Christ was the one opposing. Thank you. So we are now at the city manager's report.
No comments, Mayor, Council.
Thank you. We do have a special presentation, and it's a project presentation from Sam Medenwalt, Boy Scouts with Boy Scouts of America, Troop 49. Welcome, Sam.
You're a little taller than I am. There you go.
It's on.
It's on. Yep, go ahead.
Hello, Mrs. Mayor and the Longmont City Council. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Sam Manuel. I'm a Boy Scout with Troop 49 in Erie, working on my Eagle Scout project. I have had the privilege of working with Mr. Russ Boehm to create flag retirement boxes. We gave one to the local Elks Club a few weeks ago, and now I am here to present this one to you for the city of Longmont. My interest in the flag has been a part of my whole life. My great-grandfather served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. My grandfather served in the U.S. Air Force, and my dad is a U.S. Marine. From the time I can remember, my older brother and I were taught to respect the flag. My mom even has pictures of the two of us standing in front of the TV for Monday Night Football saluting the flag on TV while Dad stood at attention and the national anthem was sung. It is due to this tradition and history that led me to find an Eagle Scout project that involved our nation's flag. Connecting with Mr. Russ allowed me to do this. During our initial discussions, Mr. Russ wanted me to design and build a box not only for the Elks Lodge, but also an additional box for the city of Longmont that we could put out in public view for flag collection. We are also hoping that you will be willing to publicize it on the city's website so people know about it. This is a box. This is a box for a collection of U.S. flags. As per U.S. flag code, the only flag that needs to be retired, that needs to be collected and properly retired, is the U.S. flag. Having a collection box where Longmont residents can access it will make sure we are treating our country's flag with the respect it deserves. One of the questions I know you'll have is who will maintain this box. The Longmont VFW Post has volunteered to maintain the box, collect the flags, and make sure they are properly retired through the flag retirement ceremonies. With all this being said, on behalf of myself, Mr. Boehm, and Boy Scout Troop 49, I gift you with this flag collection box. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Sam. This is an amazing project. We're going to take a picture, but I do have a question just for clarification. These are retired flags that that people no longer want to fly because they've even been torn by the wind, or they just don't want them anymore. Can you clarify that?
It's any flag any American flag that somebody doesn't need or is damaged and can be properly retired in the proper manner.
Thank you very much. I would like a picture with you and the box, if you wouldn't mind.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all.
Okay. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not just me. Okay.
You want to move the box over to the center.
Yes. Yes. So how do you put it? It opens. Amazing. Fantastic.
Right. Big smiles near the box. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good job.
Wow.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much. It's amazing. We are now at first call, public invited to be heard. And remember that we would like your name and address and 3 minutes. The first one on the list is Sherry Malloy.
Good evening, Sherry Malloy, 1632 Sherman Way. As you all know, I'm a member of Longmont Friends of Open Space. We are residents committed to preserving St. Vrain Creek and all our open spaces. We initiated and campaigned for the extension of our open space ballot measure last November, which passed with 74% approval. Voters supported taxing ourselves in perpetuity because we want our open space lands respected, protected, and not developed. That includes not being bartered or traded for any reason. While I have no idea what you discussed in your executive session about Wholesome, I want to be clear that Friends of Open Space is 100% opposed to exchanging open space properties for any reason. Whether Holcomb ends their operations early doesn't make this land swap and its terrible precedent any better, nor does it make the consequential erosion of the public's trust any better. While I have your attention, Sunday's Times Call article referenced an email from LPC's Scott Roche noting that open space had been repurposed to meet other city needs in the past. 2 examples involving street expansions were given. In 2009, 2.57 acres were taken from open space for the Martin Bridge. Again, in 2013, 5.94 acres was taken to extend Boston Avenue by Martin. These made sense. The open space disposition ordinance clearly identifies rationale for streets and right-of-ways. Those situations are entirely different from the distal toll proposal involving many more acres, all for industrial development. As we've said before, Friends of Open Space have no issue with building any infrastructure for any purpose anywhere except on land purchased with our tax dollars for open space. When open space land is acquired, many conservation factors are weighed, with location being a primary factor. Once a location has been established, it is meant to be permanent and not a future candidate for relocation or land exchange. It's unfortunate Public Works staff has been merchandising this proposal as a solution for the real need for compost infrastructure. Only 12% of the distal open space property is appropriated for compost, and 88% for city infrastructure in the proposal. This proposal presents as a bait and switch for the city to build industrial infrastructure on land designated as open space. Friends of Open Space support partnering with Boulder County for regional compost infrastructure. I personally have dedicated decades for regional compost infrastructure. City Council initial direction on this was well-intentioned. It's unfortunate staff use greenwashing to mislead City Council and use open space as a commodity. This violates the spirit of the open space ordinance. Please follow PRAB's recommendation by rejecting this land exchange at your August 12th council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. John Limke.
Good evening. John Lemke, 744 Stonebridge Drive. It's always a pleasure to be back here talking about Longmont's business. I'm back to pitch the benefits of ranked choice voting. Big surprise, right? Recently I met with some members of the business community, and they expressed their frustration at not being heard on the minimum wage issue. I know that there's going to be a discussion called a fishbowl. I feel like it would be a great opportunity for people to be heard. Then today I read an article by a local labor leader also expressing their disappointment that they're not feeling heard. I argue that our election system is a major factor. We should seriously consider implementing ranked choice voting. Enough people are planning to run in the city elections this fall that every seat could be won by someone that earns less than 50% of the vote. That is minority rule. It is possible in the at-large election, the winning threshold could be between 20 and 28% of the vote for someone to win. At least two things happen when you implement ranked choice voting. You need a majority to win, and voters feel like their voice and vote matter. I will circle back. Winning with less than majority is minority rule. Ranked choice voting solves that. In the words of the Star Wars character, the Mandalorian, this is the way.
Thank you, John. Lance Whitaker.
Mayor and Council, my name is Lance Whitaker, 1750 Collier Street, Longmont, Colorado. Been here for over 40 some odd years. I just like to remind people today is National Fragile X Awareness Day, which is a disease that affects your genome. National Pooch Fudge Day, National Mango Day, and National Hammock Day. And because I won't be here next Tuesday, I figure I'd give you tomorrow's national days, which are also National Lemon Day, National Gorgeous Grandma Day, which I have one, and National Vanilla Ice Cream Day. So you all have a good day, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, and good luck to you, Lance. Nathan Dreschner.
Good evening, Nathan Drashner, 2205 Winding Drive, Longmont, Colorado. I wanted to come and thank you guys for coming to the meeting on the 12th. Those who were able to make it, thank you, Councilman Popkin, for letting me know you weren't going to be able to make it. I appreciate your attention to the issue. Thank you for coordinating it as well. That was super helpful. I know for those of you who weren't able to make it. So one thing I wanted to follow up on, though, is unfortunately, after the meeting this last week, CAR, in conjunction, we thought CAR was gone, in conjunction with Ohio Recovery Housing, released a press release that I brought a printout for everybody that pretty much reverses most of what the BHA told us in that meeting on the 12th. They actually are basically, CAR is doing business as Ohio Recovery Housing now. The state, I don't know if you guys remember when Kelly made her comment about the BHA lead, made the comment about Colorado residents doing the evaluation. As you'll see in that press release, it's actually CAR. They've hired all the staff from CAR to continue their great work. So I don't know if there was a level of disingenuity. I don't know if she wasn't honest with us or what happened, but a lot of people are pretty frustrated right now. Felt like basically we just got a lot of lip service during the meeting. A couple items of concern that came up during the meeting that I wanted to give you guys a heads up about. The way the Kelly from the BHA kept on citing the primary diagnosis. I mean, I don't know that, since we all know who lives there, that might have been a HIPAA violation. I don't know if you guys have thought about that, but since everybody knows who lives there and she's disclosing that everyone has this primary diagnosis of substance abuse, there's actually excessive extra protections for substance abuse clinical data. It's called 42 CFR Part 2, I think it's called, that are even more stringent than normal HIPAA. And then finally, and that's just a real concern to us, for the well-being of the people who are living in the house, the clients who are living in the house. So appreciate you guys' attention to the matter, and sorry to be the somewhat bearer of bad news, but thanks again for coming. Appreciate it.
Strider Benston.
How do? I'm Strider Benston, 951 West 17th. Last Thursday we had a memorial vigil for John Lewis and also C.T. Vivian, who was mentor to John and myself, and they died on the same day five years ago, last Thursday. That picture is with C.T. and me in Selma 5 years ago. So the travesty that's been going on in this country the last, every day, there's more stuff. You got the Epstein stuff, you got the Trump put out the Martin Luther King issue, anything to distract us from how our country is being destroyed. Let me give you from General Eisenhower in 1946. There were a lot of Republicans running for Congress, and they either were or had friends who would speak for them wearing their military uniforms. And General Eisenhower said, this is absolutely improper. We should not use the military to support any political organization. And he finished his term the same way with the military-industrial complex speech. People don't know but his first speech in 1953, his guns and butter speech, which I will quote for you. Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, from those who are cold and not clothed. This world in arms is not spending money alone. It is spending the sweat of its laborers, the hope of its children, the genius of its scientists. This is not a way of life at all in any true sense. Under the cloud of threatening war, it is humanity hanging from a cross of iron. He had just been elected president. He opened his presidency with that level of understanding. We need those kind of people who care about our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Strider. Steve Altshuler?
Steve Altshuler, 1555 Taylor Drive. Ready? I've mentioned this before, but I'd like to bring it up again. There have been people in here speaking and telling us that low-income housing already has several hundred vacancies. There's construction in the pipeline of several thousand more units. My question before has been, when is enough going to be enough? I recommend a 3-year moratorium on all new low-income housing approvals until we can work our way through what's already going to be built. I would also like to recommend a 3-year freeze on in lieu payments from builders. This will reduce the cost of a new home purchase by approximately 5%. So you guys keep talking about things being too expensive, and I keep mentioning how it's because the city is taking money. So this would be a good way to give it a test for a few years and see if we can't keep prices down. As builders have to pay less, they can charge less. I'd also like to point out that in 2019, and my figures might be slightly off, but they're close according to Google, the population in Longmont was about 97,000 people. In 2024, the population of Longmont was 98,444, a 1.5% increase. In 2019, the budget for Longmont was $363 million. In 2024, the budget for Longmont was just over $444 million. That's a 22% increase. So if our population is not growing, why does our budget have to take off like that? And you only get the money by taxing people more. And I know we've been told before there's no new taxes, but fees and registrations and regulations and whatever the heck you want to call it. So I know that the new budget is going to be coming down the pipeline soon, and I would really appreciate it if council would take a serious look at how much things have increased in the last 4 or 5 years and do something to help the citizens of Longmont with their finances instead of just taking more money so you can build more low-income housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Seeing no one else on the list, I'm going to close first call, public invited to be heard, and we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Crystal, would you read the consent agenda into the record?
Yes, Mayor. The second reading and public hearing for all ordinances introduced on this consent agenda will be held on August 12th, 2025. Item 9A is ordinance 2025-43, a bill for an ordinance amending Title 15 of the Longmont Municipal Code concerning expanding daycare center opportunities in commercial districts. Item 9B is ordinance 2025-44, a bill for an ordinance authorizing the consent to Vance Brand Municipal Airport lease assignment for hangar parcel H-28 to Sparkjoy Air LLC. Item 9C is ordinance 2025-45, a bill for an ordinance authorizing the consent to Vance Brand Municipal Airport lease assignment for Hangel Parser H-54 to Troy Anderson. Item 9D, Resolution 2025-38, a resolution of the Longmont City Council approving the revocable permit and services contract amendment between the city and Lamar Advertising for bus shelters, benches, and public information displays. Item 9E is Resolution 2025-39, a resolution of the Longmont City Council establishing fees for criminal justice records. Item 9F, Resolution 2025-40, a resolution of the Longmont City Council approving an agreement with the St. Vrain Valley School District for Next Light to provide E-rate internet service. Item 9G is approve 5 capital improvement amendments.
Thank you. Are there any counselors that want to pull items off of the consent agenda? Counselor Christ.
I would like to pull item A and item E.
Thank you. Counselor Popkin.
I also wanted to pull A, so thank you, Councilmember Christ. I also want to add. I also want to pull D and F.
I think we're going to pull this whole agenda, because I'm going to pull B, D, and G. So, I think that the consent agenda is C, is the only one left on the consent agenda. So, do we want to move this agenda with C or wait until we do all of it? All right, I move that we pass the consent agenda item C.
Second.
It's been moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Chris, that we pass item C on the consent agenda. And now we're going to move to the ordinance on the second reading. Oh, we have to vote. I'm going ahead of myself. Let's vote. And that passes unanimously, 6-0 with Councilor Yarbrough absent. So let's move on to the ordinance on second reading and public hearing on any item. The first one is 2025-40. This is a bill for an ordinance making additional appropriations for expenses and liabilities of the City of Longmont for the first fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2025. Is there any discussion from council? I do have one question, and I'm basically asking this for the public in case anybody's listening online. My question is, I should have just disappeared. My question is, are these funds in the fund balance that they're coming out of, are these being appropriated for the 2026 budget, or these funds were appropriated in the 2025 budget? Is that correct? And we're just dispersing them at this point.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. So the appropriation would be for 2025, not
Okay.
26.
Thank you. That's all I needed to know. Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I'll open up for public comment. Is there anybody in the public that would like to address 2025-40? Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public comment and ask for a motion. It's been moved by Councilor McCoy, seconded by Councilor Christ. Let's vote. That passes 6-0 with Councilor Yarbrough absent. The next one is 2025-41. This is bill for an ordinance authorizing the City of Longmont to lease real property adjacent to the Meadow Street electric substation to Platte River Power Authority for a battery storage project. Are there any questions or comments from council? Councilor Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. I asked multiple questions at the last meeting on this, and those were all satisfied. And I just wanted to share one comment. I was just in Chicago this week for work at the Aspen Ideas Climate Summit, and attended a workshop this morning with a lot of different insurance providers, financial folks, and energy professionals, and the consensus across multiple different industries was that we are not doing nearly enough to reduce our risk to various environmental threats and economic threats as a result of that. This is a step in that direction. And so I just wanted to add that context that resilience really does matter. This is both a resilience addition enhancement for our grid and a flexibility enhancement for our grid as we move forward in a changing world. And I think this is a really nice step in the right direction.
Thank you. Seeing no one else in the queue, I'm going to open up the public comment for this ordinance 2025-41. Is there anybody in the chamber that would like to address this? Seeing no one, I'll close the public comment for 2025-41 and ask Councilor Popkin, are you still? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll ask for a motion.
Yeah, I will gladly move to approve ordinance 2025-41.
It's been moved by Councilor Popkin, seconded by Councilor McCoy to move 2025-41. Let's vote. That passes 6-0 with Councilor Yarbrough absent. Our next bill is 2025-42. It's a bill for an ordinance authorizing a lease agreement between the City of Longmont as lessee and the Ascent at Hover Crossing LLLP as lessor for a rooftop lease agreement for siding solar power system. Do we have any comments or questions from council? Seeing none, I'll open up the public comment on 2025-42. Is there anyone in the public that would like to address this ordinance? Seeing no one, I will close the public comment and ask for a motion.
I'll move ordinance 2025-42.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring, seconded by Councilor Popkin. Let's vote. And that passes 6-0 with Councilor Yarbrough absent. And we are now at items removed from the consent agenda. So let's take them in alphabetical order. All right, let's start with A. Who pulled A? Okay, Councilor Popkin.
Yeah, wait for staff to come up. I pulled A because actually, I guess it might have been 2 weeks ago that I made a motion to kind of to direct the Plan and Zoning Commission to look at further expanding this, and actually wanted to just, now that I'm seeing this in full form here of what's come back from staff, I'm wondering if that's necessary, and so I wanted to actually put out an idea here as an amendment to this ordinance. That I think is in the spirit of what this is trying to do, and just further does this fairly efficiently if we're right here right now. So looking at the chart, this is in section 1. What page is this? This is page 1 of the ordinance itself, where we have that table of allowed uses. My amendment was going to be to, let's see, where did that language go? I wanted to amend the ordinance to add permitted, to make early childhood education or daycare facilities a permitted use in RMN residential districts, and make it a conditional secondary use in RSF and RU districts. And so the thought process there, or should I wait for a second and then explain? What's the preference here?
I think we need to wait for a second,
Okay.
and then we can discuss it. Thanks for asking. Do we have a second for this? Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring has seconded your motion. So
Great.
I would restate your
Sure.
motion, but it's a little more complicated than I.
So yeah, basically, if we're looking at the table of allowed uses here, page
Yes.
1 of the ordinance, there are 3 residential districts that don't have any comment on allowed uses here for this, and in the service of allowing more opportunity, it doesn't require things to be built there in these types of residential districts, but we do have schools as allowed uses in at least single family and mixed neighborhood districts as well. And I think for the purpose and intent, or the spirit and intent of what we're trying to do here, is allow for more facilities or operational space as part of this broader challenge of increasing early childhood education opportunities and making that more affordable, just allowing it to be an option in other zoning districts that we haven't covered here. And so RMN is mixed neighborhood, and so that's kind of the slight step up in density from single family. RSF is single family, and RRU is rural. I don't want to prescribe, I'm not prescribing that we put it in any of those inherently, but saying we make it a permitted use, so add a P under RMN, and then we add a conditional secondary use, a CS, under RSF and RU. And basically the intent there is that it has to go through a little bit more, to get into a single family and rural zone, it would have to go through a little bit more process with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and meet a few other criteria in our land use code for it to be allowed there, and there would be public hearings to determine if that's the right compatible fit with those neighborhoods where it would be proposed. And that would be a part of the public process, but it would allow that to be a potential option if that was desirable. And from my perspective, having commercial early childhood education purposes, or I mean formalized operations for early childhood education in those areas could actually be a complementary asset to those neighborhoods.
Councillor Christ.
Well, actually, I first pulled this, so I have a few other items I want to discuss, but thank you for mentioning primary as a secondary.
Sorry, I thought,
as a secondary.
I thought you only pulled.
No, I had A and E.
Oh, okay. Oh, apologies for stepping on your toes there.
Yeah. I would like to keep commercial separate from single family and actually mixed neighborhood as well, because I think they could be in the commercial centers that are in those neighborhoods. If it was a commercial daycare, and I'm thinking, for example, there's a commercial area right between, I'm thinking over on 9th Avenue where there is a commercial daycare, and we also had one on 21st, mostly talking about my ward here because I'm very familiar with it, as it became more commercial. So it's not actually in the neighborhood, but it is available for the neighborhood. But I actually had other considerations with this, is the reason why I pulled it. For one, okay.
Is there any other comment on Councillor Popkins' motion?
Can I just briefly respond to Councilwoman Christ?
Sure.
Thanks. I do want to distinguish, so there aren't, like, just to clarify, there aren't commercial subsets of an RMN zone or an RSF zone. There could be adjacent districts that are zoned for that purpose.
Exactly, that's how I'd like to keep it.
Gotcha, I understand that. I just wanted to note for everyone's awareness that in a single family neighborhood and in a mixed neighborhood, so in a single family neighborhood, allowed secondary uses already include places of worship and schools. And in a mixed neighborhood, they also include small scale retail, restaurants, cafes, community gardens, public services, recreation facilities, schools, and places of worship in an RMN zone. So,
and I want to point out that this says daycare, commercial. And so I'm saying there are daycares there, but they're not necessarily big commercial sites. This when this originally was proposed, it was proposed as bringing daycares into commercial areas to service people who are working in primary employment.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess am I missing something on terms of what this original ordinance was intended to speak to from a facility standpoint?
Yes.
Okay.
This was actually presented by your predecessor.
Yeah, I saw that in the council comment.
Yeah. And
He just wants to add to the use chart.
Councillor Popkin, let's clarify.
Yeah.
The ordinance is to allow daycare centers, not private daycare centers, in commercially zoned areas.
No, thank you for asking. So my amendment was on top of what's proposed already.
Yes.
looking at the 3 zoning districts, we don't have any discussion of allowed use here. That's rural, single family, and mixed neighborhood. Those 3 on the left. The intent was to allow, private daycare and early
Exactly.
childhood education, which I think is what is defined when we say daycare commercial.
Correct.
Was to allow that as a permitted use in a mixed neighborhood, which already allows for small scale retail anyway, and schools, and then add that to rural and single family, which also allows for schools and places of worship, at least in the single family. I'd be open to flexing on the rural neighborhood one,
Okay.
but allows that in there as a conditional secondary use.
Okay. And for Councilor Christ, if you do not want that, you can vote against the motion and then because you also pulled A, then you can bring up your, unless you want to amend it, and whether Councilor Popkin accepts that amendment or not on his motion. Does that make sense? We need to stick with this motion first.
I'm just saying it's outside the scope of the ordinance, as we had asked for, but.
But this
Yeah.
is an amendment to
Yeah.
that ordinance.
And also, I'm the one who pulled it first. I actually wanted to talk about the commercial site aspect of it. So, I would appreciate if we followed the procedure for me as well as for Counselor Popkin, is what I am saying. All right.
I'll just note, if
Go
I
ahead,
violated
move
some,
your motion.
If I violated some sequence here, I'm more than happy to withdraw my amendment so that you can proceed with yours first.
No, let's do it while you got it on the table.
Okay. Sorry, there was really no overstepping there. I thought I had pulled it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the amendment there is to allow conditional secondary use for rural and SF, and add that in, and then to add permitted use for RMN.
Okay, any other discussion? That was seconded by, yes, I can see Councilor McCoy.
Just to clarify, you want it so that these other areas have to procure a permit to make that happen? And just,
No, I just-
while we're at it, get it cleared up?
Okay, I just called on it because he
Yes.
Sorry, could you just repeat that again?
Oh, you just want to make sure that all those areas that we're looking at have the requirement of a permit being pulled?
So just to clarify, what that would do is it allows it as a use
Yeah.
in that area. And the P for permitted would mean it is
Allowed already.
it is a permitted use, and it follows the permitted use procedures in our land use code. The conditional secondary would allow it as a use, but it would go through other criteria if it were going to be
And that's,
built in those.
I'm going to interrupt and ask our city attorney for some advice here. Because what I am thinking, this is a second reading. If we amend, I'm sorry, I'm getting all confused. So go ahead, can you weigh in on this, please? Eugene?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, Eugene May, City Attorney. Council can amend ordinances on first or second reading. If you want substantive staff advice, we've got planning staff back here. I am not a land use expert on daycares that they.
I just saw the
analysis.
look on your face and I thought you probably wanted to weigh in.
Thank you. It was unclear though. Rural was mentioned in the beginning, and then it wasn't mentioned in the middle, and I'm not sure what happened to rural.
And it's on the.
To clarify, my motion to amend was to allow it as a conditional secondary use for rural and single family, and to allow it as a permitted use in RMN.
Okay. Let's,
Can I just clarify quick on that motion? I have RRU as a conditional secondary use.
Yes.
Include that as well?
Yes, RRU, RSF, both conditional secondary, RMN permitted.
Thank you.
Yep.
okay, let's vote on this one. So that passes 5-1 with Counselor Yarbrough absent. Counselor Christ was opposing. Now we'll call on Counselor Christ for, you pulled A as well.
Yes, I do, or I did. So I have a couple of concerns with this. The first one is that we have a new LEDP director, and I believe that this type of ordinance may influence the availability of commercial sites for new businesses. For instance, if a daycare were to move into a commercial area and meet all the qualifications of this ordinance, and then one of the businesses were to leave and they want to attract a different business that maybe doesn't meet all the qualifications, but the daycare is already existing there, that might dissuade some commercial development. And so I just wasn't quite sure how to wrap my head around this in terms of what we have presented in front of us, and wondered if we could pass this to LEDP for some discussion before we bring it back.
Let me think about that. I think that it is already an ordinance, and they can weigh in on ordinances, but we need to decide tonight whether we're going to table this, pass it, but we've already passed it with the amended land use.
That's the problem, because he got ahead of me.
Point of parliamentary procedure here. We passed the amendment to this. We have not voted on the actual ordinance yet tonight.
Okay.
So this is still in the workshop phase.
And here's the problem. This is coming back on August 12th, which is before our next LEDP meeting. So just want to delay it maybe 2 more weeks so they have a chance to weigh in. Otherwise, they're coming in at second reading.
Do you want to make a motion out of that?
Please. I would like to forward this ordinance to the LEDP board for consideration before it comes back for second reading, or before it passes consent.
Can we have a second for Councillor Chris' motion?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay. So Councillor Chris would like to move ordinance 9A 2025-43 to the LEDP before we pass it for their input. Councillor Popkin.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Peck, and thank you, Councilwoman Christ. Again, no, not trying to shortchange the process here at all. So I just wanted to make sure I'm understanding your intent here, because that got a little muddled for me. And so what I thought I heard is you were concerned that by expanding this into certain primary employment areas, it could basically take away from certain opportunities to attract or cite businesses. Is that kind of the concern that you are trying to flag here and get their input on? Because what I ask that because if that's the case, what I've generally heard from not just the business community, but also just like residents at large, is that there is a massive market shortage in early childhood education opportunities, and this is actually supporting workers, it's supporting employers, and it's supporting residents here too, the more that we can expand access to daycare and early childhood education. And so if it's in complementary zones, it's actually enhancing business opportunities there and could be an attraction. So that's kind of where I think the intent was in this, but I'd love for you to clarify like what your concern was.
Well, it's similar to some of our other concerns. If we're going to do something, regarding how we handle systems with the homeless, we need to talk to those people who work in that area, in that arena. They need to be asked. And the other thing is, and I think, is Kristen here? Is Kristen Cody here? The author of this? What I understand is there's the daycares will sort of be certifying that they've done an environmental assessment and that it meets the guidelines that are presented in your attachments here. I haven't brought them up to look for that while we're talking about this. But after that happens, that daycare needs those environmental scenarios to be solid and static You can't have a moving environment and that some other business moves in with other environmental concerns.
Thank you for those questions. I do appreciate them. So in reference to that, the thought process was that when a daycare, if and when a daycare proposes to build or relocate into one of those districts, obviously the buffer study would be required. It would be reviewed by staff and need to be approved by our director. When subsequent businesses came in, we would then have the knowledge that the daycare center existed, and within that buffer at the planning level, I would envision that we would look at those items during our review process and, you know, give any of concerns to our director and follow whatever direction he would give in reference to the next steps.
Okay, so second generation, if you will, businesses basically have to meet those same qualifications because the daycare is in operation there.
We would have to ensure that anything going in within that 500-foot area wouldn't pose an environmental risk.
Right, okay. So I just want a weigh-in as to how to deal with that effectively. I think we can deal with it, and I think probably there are zones where that's fairly benign. But I think we just need to we have a very new director. She's actually very proactive and has lots of leads. So just like to make her aware of it before we maybe shorten the distances that she can use.
I see. No, that's helpful. So if I'm understanding you correctly, the concern you see potentially arising is you get a childhood education center or a daycare in one place, and there's two other parcels that are available within that buffer. And you're like, oh, does that exclude some industries that we might want to come there? And then it's a question of not only chicken and egg, but then it's a question of which do we prioritize? And that's not really what you're saying is not only are we, it's not so much we're favoring one over the other, but we're excluding others potentially if they would be a more, if they wouldn't be compatible with that environmental buffer.
And I think there are some commercial areas where only certain businesses can exist there in terms of like, you know. So I just want a weigh-in because I'm not, I want daycare to be an advantage, not a disadvantage to our commercial sites.
I understand that. I'm hopeful that some of the businesses that we might have come in would not risk that environmental buffer anyway for other reasons, but that's a different conversation. But I understand now better where you're coming from in that, and I appreciate it.
Okay.
Other
comments? I am.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Ferring.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the concerns you're bringing forward. I don't see quite that there's an issue as far as that goes. So currently I serve on the steering committee for the Boulder Early Childhood Council. And we just met today, in fact. And in that conversation, and there are a mix of business sector, industry, childcare industry folks, and other elected officials. And in this conversation, we're actually finding that the workforce that have children in childcare, and I did this as well, is you often put your kids in childcare close to where you work. So, so it almost seems like it's addressing some of the issues that we had discussed in the council. So I think it would be less of a problem. I mean, I'm really going to kick it back to Councilmember Popkin if he wants to table it for now, but I really don't see the need to have to table it at this point. I think it would support business. I think it would support business as well. So I'm going to actually move the consent agenda, but I'm not supporting this.
I'm not asking to table it. I'm asking to delay it until LEDP can have a look at it.
That is tabling it.
Well, extending.
It's tabling it.
To me, you table it, you bring it back at your discretion. But I'm asking that it go beyond August 12th. So,
you know what? I think we've had enough discussion on this, to be honest, and let's move it on. let's vote on your motion, because you did not say you wanted to amend this ordinance. You just put it out there. Do we even want to consider giving it to LEDP? So you want to table it? And so,
To forward to LADP.
for review, and that's tabling it. So, let's vote on this, whether we want to forward it to LADP. And that fails 6-1 with Counselor Yarbrough absent. All right, the next one on the list was, oh, we have to vote on this now. Okay. Please.
2025-43 as it had been.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. It's been moved by Counselor McCoy to move 2025-43 as amended, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring. Let's vote. Yes?
Thank you, Mayor Peck. Just one quick comment. I appreciate the spirit of where Councilwoman Chris was coming from, and just wanted to suggest, because of the process we have, this is first reading, then second reading will be on August 12th, so there's actually still some time to consult with LADP if you wanted to, and bring in Kelly, or say, hey, we're going to have a public hearing on this on August 12th. So I'd say if that's the intent and spirit there, happy to support you on reaching out to Kelly. And I
did reach out.
Okay.
To her before tonight, but we didn't.
Yeah, and I met with her a couple times, and be happy to help make sure that she's aware of this, and we can get her input on it if that's necessary for this.
Yeah, I think so.
So,
It doesn't give her very much.
yeah, so just wanted to offer that. Cool, thank you.
I changed my vote to yay, not nay. Thank you. So that passes 6-1 with Counselor, 5-1, I'm sorry, with Counselor Yarbrough absent. Thank you. And I pulled B, only for a question. As I was reading this, I was wondering, and tried to research, what does Sparky Joy LLC do? Is that Sparky back there? Sparky Joy.
Hi, Mayor, Council. I'm Levi Brown, Airport Manager.
Yes.
It's a private individual with a private aircraft.
Okay, all right, thanks. I tried to Google it and I couldn't find anything, and I thought,
You'll find many.
it's a business.
Many lessees will put limited liability companies, kind of.
Okay, thanks, that's all I wanted. So knowing that, I pass 2025-44. It's been moved by myself, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring. Let's vote. And that passes 6-0 with Counselor Yarbrough absent. The next one on the list is D. Who pulled D? Counselor Popkin?
Did, mostly just for one question. Hello, Ben.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm looking at the Third Amendment document here. Says the Third Amendment to Services Contract. In there, one of the parts of this refers to, so I'm looking at page 1, part G of this, clause G, where it talks about the payment for termination for convenience. And so the language says that the city shall pay to the contractor an amount sufficient to purchase the shelters or other capital investments at the current market rate minus the rate of 10% per year for depreciation. And then it goes on to cite an example. For example, if a $100,000 shelter is removed after 10 years in service, the city would owe the contractor $0. And so I just wanted to clarify the depreciation approach here, because how I originally read it was 10% per year. And I would assume that my thought process was that would be 10% of the value of it. And so if it's 10% of year one, that's not that would get to 90,000. 10% of that would then be 81,000, not 80,000. So I'm just wondering, is this a 10% from the base of the contract, and that's how it's written, or is it 10% on the depreciation schedule? Because that would change the fiscal responsibility for the city significantly.
Right. It would be 10% of the base. So 1/10 of whatever the value is, the original value every year until it gets to zero.
Say that one more time.
So 10% of the original value every year until it gets to zero. So
okay,
if it's 100, then it would be 10, then minus 10 the next year, then minus 10 the next
got
year.
it. So I don't read this that way, because I see it's 10% of the current market rate. That's the language that I'm seeing. An amount sufficient to purchase the shelters or other capital investments at the current market rate, which should mean by year 2, it's that the current market rate is different, and or it would be the depreciated rate from that as the current. I do have a strong preference. I want it to be what you're describing, and I just want to make sure the contract language makes it crystal clear that we're not on the hook for the $34,000 or so that it would be after year 10.
Yeah, I don't believe that's the intent. The example in G was intended to clarify that approach, which is that last sentence which you had read previously.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was the intent of how the depreciation was supposed to go for these shelters.
Okay. Maybe a question for Harold or Eugene here. I'm just wondering if there's a way to just make that crystal clear, whether it's by saying the original current rate or the current market rate in year 0 or year 1, however we want to delineate that. The example is clear, but the language that actually specifies that, I think, could be interpreted multiple ways.
I think also, and maybe the last sentence, for the purpose of this provision, just depreciation shall start from the date a new shelter or other capital investment is put into place. So I think that sentence is starting the mark of when it's put into place. I think and I'm the non-attorney here, the example
shall start from, but doesn't say it's that is the reference rate.
Correct, and I think the example gives a clarity from the calculation standpoint of how that would be done, but I'm the non-attorney, so.
But you're the finance guy. I mean, I think that the example provides, I think about, my Schedule E that I fill out for my rental property, and you have linear depreciation. It's the same amount every year. That's kind of what this is saying. I'm looking at Councilmember Rodriguez, maybe if he has some depreciation terminology. I don't know if linear or flat rate of 10% per year, but I think the example kind of shows that if you go 10% per year for 10 years, you get to 0.
Is the example legally binding?
It's illustrative of the intent.
I just want to make sure we're not on the hook for tens of thousands of dollars if we depreciate this in a different way. That's my sole goal here. So if we're comfortable with it, okay. Just wanted to make sure to flag that. If there's other clarifying language we can put in here, I don't think that hurts. I'll reserve my time and see if Councilwoman Christ has anything to add on that.
Councilor Christ.
You could declare a depreciation method like linear non-weighted depreciation, but maybe just say 10% of the base purchase price each year, annually. I mean, just to make it clear to the, non-lawyer, non-accountant types.
We can amend the language however you feel is comfortable. I'm okay with that.
10% of the base price each year, annually, is fine. Do you agree?
I am comfortable with that. I'm a little concerned about the execution of the agreement. I assume Lamar has already signed. So if we amend it now, we got to go back to them, get their approval of the amended language.
We do have a representative from Lamar here. I will defer to Stephen Cecil with Lamar and see what his thoughts are.
Steve Cecil with Lamar Advertising. So thank you all for your time today. The intent was to have a zero balance after 10 years. So that was the intent from the team here at Longmont and Lamar. So however we need to do that, I'm open to it. It could be the original purchase price, so that if we purchase something on the last day of year 9, then I understand it has 1 day of depreciation of the original purchase price. So whatever you all are comfortable with. Of course, I'm not an attorney either. Our attorney reviewed this along with yours, and so this is what was put in front of you today.
I'm going to go with the attorneys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, are you okay? Correct. I pulled this also, but for a different reason. I was curious as to why I thought RTD was responsible for the bus stops in the city. And what is the difference between this one with, is it only for the advertising? Or is this a totally different thing because of our bus terminal?
Well, Mayor, it's sort of a hybrid of what we've done in the past. So RTD, they designate the locations where the bus stops are going to be. They put in a flag. They have an agreement that the buses will stop at those locations when there are passengers waiting or someone requesting a stop. This being a bus rapid transit system, however, is different from the local systems, obviously. So there have been a lot of capital expenditures in order to make this a far more robust type of a system. And one of the amendments, or one of the amenities we're going to be adding, are the public information displays. And you all may recall me bringing those to you in the past. And so Lamar Advertising will be purchasing those, as well as providing the advertisement, as well as then we will also have RTD providing those schedules on those information displays. So the essential difference here is a more robust system. The shelters are going to be far more substantial, along with the other amenities at the 4 stops on Kaufman Street. And so in that regard, it's a little bit different beast than the local system. But it's the same in one regard, in that everywhere you see in town where we have shelters with the advertising, Lamar owns those shelters and they maintain those shelters. They empty out the trash, they power wash them. When the snow gets to a certain amount, after a certain amount of time, they will clear the snow, etc. And so they do all the maintenance, they change out all the advertising. So RTD has very little role in terms of any of those particular stops.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that for my own knowledge. So with that, I am going to move up the ordinance 2025-44. It's been moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Popkin.
38.
Resolution 2538.
Yeah. Oh, she got it right. Crystal got it right.
Oh, it is D. I'm sorry. I was looking at B. I know she did. Crystal got it right. So let's vote. And that passes 6-0 with Councilor Yarbrough absent. The next one on the list was, you're welcome, thank you, was E. Who pulled E? Oh, no. Councilor Christ.
Again, didn't you? It was just me? Okay. Just me that had E. Okay. E. Ashley Gillespie. Is Ashley in the Oh, thank you, Ashley.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's good. Thank you for waiting.
Of course.
So Ashley, I know we have generally passed through costs, and I know we've had a lot of Cora requests, maybe more than normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, is there anything that the council or the city in general can do to make this less odious for you, a little easier, a little more efficient, a little less expensive? Usually it's technology, but maybe
Yeah.
there's some other system.
We have submitted in the budget for a system called GovQA for my team that would help manage some of these requests. It would create efficiencies for my team. So we are optimistic that it will be approved through the budget in hopes to create some of those efficiencies for us.
Yeah. The thing with when costs go up and then we raise fees, and then things get more expensive, and then costs go up, you know, the fees never come down is the problem. So it's almost the epitome of inflation. And so and usually what happens is people find efficiencies through technology or through streamlining. You know, I don't know how your records retention is and how, you know, the record filing system is, because that can make things more difficult. So I was just looking for some suggestions where we could put off raising fees until we had more, you know, more technology available to you.
I don't know if that would be the best option. What we're doing or what we're suggesting to do with this increase is just to come in alignment with what the statute has said we can charge, which is also what the city clerk's office is currently charging as well. The only increase we're looking at this time around is just our research fee, to hopefully help deter some of the requests for all department emails and text messages for a 4-year span of time, just to ensure that we are, you know, adequately charging for staff time on some of those requests that we've seen in the past 3 months.
So about at the beginning of July, I mentioned that I had a list of about 22 items of fees that had been raised for individuals that amounted to about $1,500 a year per individual. And someone asked me for that list, and I went and aggregated everything that I had received, and I did not have 22. I had 43. So it is actually even more than that. And so I have a hard time voting for raising fees if we could potentially find another solution, because once fees are raised, it seems like they never come down.
Yeah. And, you know, the Colorado General Assembly reevaluates that fee every 5 years. And so last June is when they did that reevaluation based on inflation. And so that was what that increase is reflecting. It's that $33, moving that up to $41.
Oh, okay. But see, it's been a year and 9 months on the council, and I remember raising it once before.
Yeah, and that was because we were so outdated. Previous to that, we hadn't submitted for an increase since 2019.
Yeah, why did they go up? There's all these examples of things going up after 2019. Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the rash position that we should hold the line and not raise fees at this time. I realize that will be somewhat unpopular on my council, but I do think that we have other opportunities to make this more streamlined, and if we keep raising fees, we may never get the technology to help out these, not just your department, but as you mentioned, the city clerk that's being inundated with Cora requests as well.
So if I can jump in on that, we did, as part of the conversation, have a fairly extensive discussion on looking at technology. to offset this. I think when we look at it from an operational perspective, what we can say is we're going through these core requests. The expense and the time is actually more equally impactful. So we're looking for those technology advancements anyway, because the time savings alone has a significant operational impact. And so what we're trying to find is really a system that can work holistically for the organization, because on the other side, we're trying to minimize different systems, because that creates a different problem from an operational cost perspective if you're having to maintain different core systems in this. And so this is something that we're evaluating as part of the budget process, and hopefully we can find an organizational strategy which at the end of the day actually becomes more cost effective than having multiple isolated platforms within the system.
Councilor Popkin.
Harold, that was partly answering my question of just like the time money proposition here of just what goes into this. I understand where Councilwoman Christ is coming from very much on this, and when we can streamline this, it might be able to do that. That's not always possible when time and when the technology still requires a certain amount of time to go into this. And the implication is either we increase the fees on these specific requests, or we are shifting costs from another part of our budget as well. Yeah. So, something's paying for this one way or another. And I guess the question is, are we more comfortable with meeting kind of the cost parity of what this is, or are we pulling from other parts of the fund or budget that would support these operational needs anyway? And that takes away from other services that we have too. So, I mean, that's really what we're talking about if we talk about not increasing this, at least to my knowledge. So I think in this case, I'll lean towards increasing this slightly just to keep pace with this. But I understand where you're coming from, and do hope that we are able to identify those technologies and the systems that allow our staff to save time and allow our city to not have to increase fees in the future.
Well, Harold, how close are we?
Can you turn your mic on, please?
How close are we in terms of being able to afford the technology that would?
Well, that's what we're trying to assess, and so I don't know that it's anything imminent in terms of what we're doing, because the different systems that are in play and what we're trying to manage in our core requests, because they overlap at times. And then obviously, as we're looking at this budget, I kind of talked about some of the headwinds coming into this budget process is understanding what financial capacity we're going to have once we go through level 1 expenses. I just reviewed those today. We cut a few as we were evaluating it, but most of those are just inflationary increases. The number, to give you a sense, of level 1 for the general fund was 1.8 million. So we're having to evaluate that too. So I can't answer the question today, but I know there's a lot of pressures on the budget system. What we do though is when we evaluate whether it's technology or process improvements, we're also looking at what is really the return on investment. And I look at it in really multiple ways. Is there a productivity improvement? Is there a cost reduction? Is there a revenue enhancement? Or is there a cost avoidance? And if you can start seeing you hitting 2 or 3 of those, then the number starts becoming very clear, and we figure out how we can fund it. But it's too early for me to tell you how close we are. I think one of the challenges that a real example is we had a request come in. We're not even sure what the request is, even after trying to get clarifications from the person that put the request in the system. And they wanted every employee, I think, to spend 15 minutes going through their text messages, looking for something that no one's really clear what they're looking at. There's not a technology that can deal with that issue. I think we indicated that the cost of that request was $13,000, and they paid it. And so the technology doesn't always solve some of the core requests that we're dealing with when we're addressing those issues.
Well, thanks for making the human expense first on your list, because it's a tough job.
It's about capacity. I mean, everything we're talking about right now is really about capacity, because Capacity's first and foremost, because that's really the productivity improvement of where we can do more really for the same amount of money, because we're also evaluating that.
And there's no AI bot out there that can go through text messages and understand?
Not yet.
Okay.
Hopefully there will be one in the near future.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess I have to move R 2025-39.
I'll second that. It's been moved by Councilor Christ and seconded by myself to move 2025-39. Let's vote. And that passes 5-1 with Councilor Yarbrough absent. The next one is F. Councilor Hopkins, is your light on for a reason, or did you just forget to turn it off? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said.
No, I said not mine.
Thank you. I believe Valerie is here. I just had you're going to take this one? Yeah. Ian? Excellent. Thanks, Ian. Just one question, I think, for you. And while you're coming up, I'll just say, I think this is super cool that we're extending our service to support the St. Frank Valley. Full support of this. I just had a quick question. I'm blanking on where I found this in the packet, but basically this is about $94,000 of an annual contract, correct, with the school district?
Yeah, that's correct.
And I think it said there was, I just wanted to clarify, because I think this said somewhere I read that there was, it was $94,000 in revenue. And I was just wondering, are there costs for the work that we're doing here, or is it extending the service? Are there just some upfront capital costs to do? What's the cost revenue proposition?
In this case, we are providing service to St. Vrain over their fiber. So they've incurred the majority of the costs in order to extend their fiber to meet with us. But as part of the contract, we do charge for any equipment. We do charge for maintenance. So this is there is nothing additional that we are incurring in order to provide the service to them.
Excellent. Nice work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I will move to approve item F.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Popkins, seconded by Councilor Christ, to move R 2025-40. Let's vote. And that carries 6-0. I'm checking with Aaron because he's going to pronounce me. With Councilor Yarbrough absent. And I pulled G. No, I'm sorry. Which one did I pull? Yeah. I pulled G, but I did get that answered earlier, so I am going to move. There is no number to this, but I moved 9G. It's been seconded by Councilor McCoy. Let's vote. And we are through the consent agenda. That's the first time that's ever happened since I've been here. We're now at general business, which is the Sustainability Advisory Board's recommendations on a position statement regarding future development of fueling stations in Longmont.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Peck and council members. I'm Lisa Knobloch. I'm the Sustainability Manager with Strategic Integration. And I'm going to hand off this presentation to our Sustainability Advisory Board member, Daniel Leonard. But I'll be here with support and questions.
Thanks so much, Lisa. Thank you, City Council and Mayor, for having me here. And thank you for referring this issue to us as well. We enjoyed it. We had a robust debate, and looking forward to talk to you about a bit more about it tonight. And so just as a review, at the March Council meeting, you all directed us, the Sustainability Advisory Board, to make a recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission and to you all, Council, on our position for the continued development and appropriateness of development of gas stations here in the city. And so in March, we took it up. We asked City Council to bring us some examples of other municipal codes in this area for us to consider as well. And then we brought it back and discussed it in April, along with bringing our own perspectives and recommendations. And we put that together for you to review tonight. And now we are at the Green Star July to actually give you the full report and answer any questions you have about it. So we looked at 5 core areas in fueling stations for the city of Longmont. The first one was looking at alignment with sustainability goals and environmental realities. And so, of course, that's our mission at the Sustainability Advisory Board. And so wanting to make sure when it comes to any new fueling stations that we are making sure that they are reviewed against our sustainability goals and the long-term needs of this community, and for any of those fueling stations to be justified against those goals as well. We also then looked at the current and future land use conditions. A big part of this is also making sure we get plenty of input from the community itself and make sure we are making geographic demand-based decisions when it comes to any new future fueling stations and the use of the land for those. Then, of course, there's the environmental considerations. And so, those are, the usual headliners, making sure we're protecting our water, making sure we're protecting our air, also making sure that we are planning for the remediation of these fueling stations as well, especially any fueling stations that would incur significant costs to remediate that land and turn it over to a new use, and making sure those funds are secured up front as well. And then we looked at the sustainability in public health and safety concerns. A big one around here is also continuing to work with fire safety to make sure that any fueling station is meeting those standards, but also considering air and quality safety measures, particularly as it relates to any sensitive communities, sensitive businesses, or other uses of land in the area. And then we also made a recommendation because the code does refer to fuel stations, not gas stations and EV stations separately. And so we did go a little bit beyond what you asked with gas stations, and we did make recommendations around EV stations and making sure that we're keeping it front and center with our sustainability goal to continue expanding EV infrastructure and transitioning transportation options over to more sustainable options, while also providing options to the community that meet their demands. Big caveat on all of this is all very initial. We didn't do a ton of research. We wanted to get back to you quick on the overarching themes. And so I hope what you see in this is that the panel's really bringing you a lot of the economic considerations that maybe are overlooked in these processes. And so nothing here is necessarily vetted. Happy to answer any questions we can, of course. But these are just kind of our initial findings that we wanted to bring to you all in planning and zoning. Questions?
Councilor McCoy.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. It wasn't really a question so much as I guess I was not aware that we combined those two elements together, because the initial ask was about petroleum-based fueling stations, not charging stations, because I kind of think we're when we look at like In-N-Out and others that have this, and Target, who is putting in these charging stations and whatnot on their property, I would not see them specifically as a fueling station, but as that's a convenience to their customer base, and we're not quite there with all the electric vehicles across the board, where we have more electric vehicles than we do gas powered vehicles or diesel powered vehicles. And so my concern is that do we need more, or do we want to be very selective where we do put in more, because we see there is some areas where we don't need to do that. And I look at to your point about the environmental impact of it. We've had a unacceptable area at 9th and Main on the south west side sitting there for a long time that has not been dealt with, and that is one of those situations where if we really intend to, deal with the mitigation of leaky tanks and everything else like that, that's where we're going. And at some point, I don't want it where we have these pockets sitting there because of people just saying, it's cheaper for them to sit there and not fix that problem, and have us have basically not even a paid parking lot to access the businesses around it, but just a dirt parking lot that makes it look like we're all the efforts that we're doing on the rest of Main Street going south from that. It's like, what's going on there? And that's a question people ask all the time. What's going on there? And the answer is absolutely nothing. And so, that's a concern. Do we want to continue to have absolutely nothing going on at the next one and the next one and the next one because somebody finds it cost effective to have it sit there? And then this one, it's just absolutely, utterly unacceptable in the middle of our city.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think those EV examples you give are really good examples of as well with our recommendation to make sure that between gas and EV stations that we're not letting the unique properties of either impact the other. And so especially when it comes to the placement of EV stations where the economic demand for them is significantly different versus placements for gas stations, traditional gas stations, just because of timing. Like you said, convenience. It's easier to charge when I'm at Target than to sit around at a gas station waiting because they put an EV charger there. And so those are important considerations as well for any of the fueling stations. Yeah.
Councilor Popkin.
It didn't. Yeah, there we go. Thank you for sticking around and presenting this. I've been privy to many of the conversations you've already had, so I won't reignite any questions there. What I did want to just ask is, I do remember from an early conversation that SAB had that there were some discussions of additional examples from other communities and what they'd done. I was just wondering if one or both of you could, or either of you could speak to some of those examples that we saw and like kind of how much of this is informed by what other communities have done there, just so we know like what is within like the vocabulary of some local governments in the Front Range or wherever you want to highlight.
Oh, sorry, that got thrown for a minute. Mayor Peck and Councilmember Popkin. Yeah, I'm happy to jump in there. We did, I looked, I know he was here earlier, he may have left already, but I really leaned on our planning folks, and Grant Penland had a lot of expertise in this area and was able to circle quite a few examples, both regionally and from other communities. We tried to look for regional examples as much as we could in terms of what were other communities doing. And so a lot of this was informed by that. There were also additional questions and discussion that came up from the board itself, particularly around these land use pieces of assessing, not being able necessarily to come out and say we don't think additional gas stations should be going in, but people really wanted that to be informed by what's already out there, what the community demand is, as Daniel mentioned. So it was informed by that research with additional comments. Some of the ones that are particularly reflected are revisiting the existing setback that exists between gas stations and critical facilities like schools and childcares and places where people congregate, mostly because of those air quality impacts. Our setback was quite a bit lower than most of the other examples that we found. We found a number of other examples in which there were setbacks with regards to proximity to other fueling stations and certain requirements to say, if you already have a gas station on one corner, do you need another gas station on an adjacent corner? Do you need 4 gas stations at one intersection? So there were some requirements that were brought into the recommendations from the SAB around those different setbacks. And then there were also some recommendations that reflected some of the environmental and public health concerns around controls for fugitive mitigation or fugitive emissions and monitoring for potential air or water quality contamination issues.
Cool, thank you.
Seeing no one else in the queue, I read through all the recommendations, and some of them we already do, like number 3, the stormwater mitigation, air quality, permeable surface treatments, etc. We already do that. So the one thing that I don't agree with was number 2, which said to have a, and that was under the very first recommendation, which is basically should basically have a public input coming through, and I don't think that that's necessary. That is what our sustainability board is for, people to come to and give their input. But if we start having with all of these new projects, we have a public forum or a public comment section on them, I don't think we'd ever get anything done. So that I didn't agree with, but I think the work that you've done is pretty good. I'm mainly interested in, again, the amount of gas stations within a certain distance of each other so that we don't cannibalize one for the other. And it would be interesting going forward to see, as we grow, as we get more electrical in our city, do we need to start phasing these out, or will they phase themselves out just naturally? Or should we build any more? But at this point, I don't think that's a consideration. So that's my 2 cents worth. Seeing no one else, thank you for your work, and thank the Sustainability Board for their input. It's very helpful.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
We're now at final call, public invited to be heard. Is there anybody in the public that would like to address the council? Come on up, say your name, and you have 3 minutes. And address. No, I'm sorry, you don't need to give your address. Anybody can talk final call.
Good evening. My name is Keith Griffith. I live at 7066 Johnson Circle in Niwot. I have 2 land leases at the airport. On December 20th, 2022, Council unanimously approved Resolution 22-186, which implemented a new base lease template for the airport. Since that time, City Council has approved 18 new and renewed leases and 3 assignments. Currently, a new lease carries a 30-year term, whether it is renewing an expired lease or welcoming a new owner to the airport community. An assignment of a lease carries only the remaining time of the existing lease, which is typically much shorter. This is a crucial distinction. Recently, the airport manager has refused to advance new leases to council, offering only a brusque, take it or leave it lease assignment. This is a major change in policy that has interrupted the stable and predictable situation at the airport. The airport manager contends that every lease is negotiable, citing the rare phantom case of a $10 million FBO investment. This ignores the fact that probably 95% of lease transfers are very straightforward, involving no change in use. On June 27th, I sent the airport manager a written request to define the available lease terms for the sale of my hangar. I have reiterated that request at 2 subsequent in-person meetings. I still have no answer, only that it is all negotiable. How do you sell an asset with no known lease lifetime? My 2016 lease also says that I can't assign it. My situation is not unique. There are other potential hangar transfers that are also impacted by the unpredictable, undefined chaos that now exists at the airport, created by your airport manager. During the City Council discussion in December 2022, Councilmember Hidalgo Faring questioned Levi Brown about the subjective nature of considering every lease to be negotiable. She wondered whether individuals could be singled out under such a policy and refused lease renewal because, quote, they don't like me. I think that was a very insightful comment. I fully recognize that City Council has the power to change airport lease terms. I do not believe that the airport manager has the authority to do so unilaterally without explicit and public direction from the City Council. I ask the city council or appropriate city management direct the airport manager to halt this moratorium, resume processing new leases under the last approved template until city council approves a new template. Or if you don't like that, alternatively, simply make it explicit and public that you as the ultimate decision makers want a moratorium on new airport leases so that airport investors know the ground rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Hi, my name is Keith Sparkjoy. I live in Boulder, and I'm a new tenant at the Longmont Airport.
Yes, you are.
Following up on what Mr. Griffith just shared, I'd like to share my experience as a newcomer to the airport. In May of this year, I purchased Hangar 28 at Longmont Airport from a longtime resident who was moving to another state. Hangars are very scarce resources, and the seller wanted to move quickly, so I was accommodating. I paid in cash. We closed in 15 days. I asked for a copy of the ground lease, but the seller withheld it until just a few days before the close. And I now understand why he may have been a little reluctant to share it with me. When my lawyer and I were eventually able to actually take a look at it, we had some concerns about the language. I was basically inheriting a 13-year-old lease, which only had 7 years remaining on it, with an option to negotiate with the city for renewal of the lease for an additional 20-year period. It's important to note that this is not a right to renew. This is an option to negotiate. Turns out I was only guaranteed tenancy for 7 years, after which, if the city didn't want to work with me anymore, I would be responsible for tearing down and disposing of the structure. During this time, I connected with other hangar owners at the airport and learned that if I had purchased my hangar just a few months earlier, I would have been granted a new 30-year lease. Apparently, the airport manager had just recently stopped issuing new leases for hangar sales and was now only issuing lease assignments. If I'd have purchased a few months earlier, I would have had over 4 times the guarantee of the lease term. When I emailed the airport manager with a concern about lease terms, he replied, quote, "All documents, including the lease, are as stands. Make your decisions about the purchase of the hangar accordingly." If the airport manager considers every lease to be a negotiated document, I'm confused as to why the buyer isn't part of that negotiation. I was presented a lease assignment and told that I could take it or leave it. There appears to have been a change in behavior without an underlying change in policy by City Council, and I just wanted to make you aware of it. I would also like to formally request the creation of a new 30-year lease for Hangar 28, or be told on the record why I'm being treated differently than others who came before. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the yes, here we have someone. Hello.
Hello. My name is Irma Williams, and I live at 12353 North 75th Street, Longmont, Colorado 80503. I come to find out that I am a resident of the Boulder County unincorporated area, but anyway, but I am the founder of the William Vaughn Center. We are a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to reduce homeless growth in Longmont. Our team is dedicated to the mission of reducing homeless growth. We can do this by building and offering low-rent living spaces and services to those that are in transition and to those who are facing the possibility of homelessness. Our project will bridge that gap by offering low-rent spaces and wraparound services while the clients pursue permanent housing, thus preventing the growth of homelessness in Longmont, Colorado. Now, we all heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Therefore, if we can build these living spaces and provide services such as therapy, referrals, and life skills, this will happen. And by preventing people who are in crisis becoming homeless in the first place, we have achieved our goal in helping to reduce homeless growth in the city of Longmont. We are asking the city of Longmont to partner with us in this endeavor by donating land or other resources to the project. We need the land to build the living spaces on. I have 33 years of experience and voluntary experience working with agencies to help resolve the issue of surrounding homelessness. My board members have over 40 years in accounting, business ownership, and administration. We already have a grant writer willing to donate her time and skill in pursuing continuous funding for the center. We have a construction company and construction workers that are willing to donate their time and skill towards the project and ensure that we meet all zoning requirements. We have received our good standing certificate, our EIN number. We have our 501c3 certificate from the IRS. And we have the support from other 501c3 organizations that are already operating in the city of Longmont, such as Hope, Vineyard of Longmont Church, and Helping Hands. Your support is particularly important to us because we need the land to build on. My time is short here, so I want to thank you for your guidance through this process. And if we can make an appointment to discuss in further detail plans for the development and implementation of this project. Thank you.
Can you say once more what the name of your project is?
Yes, ma'am. It is the William Vaughn Center.
William Vaughn?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else? Steve Altschuler.
Thank you. Steve Altschuler, still 1555 Taylor Drive. Sometimes solutions are really simple, and I don't know why they don't just like jump into someone's head. Councilman Popkin, with the $100,000 depreciation schedule, just have two sentences saying, so after 3 years, there would be $70,000 left. After 7 years, it would be $30,000 left. And after 10 years, it would be zero. And that would apply whether it's 100,000, 200,000, 20 million, whatever. And then everyone sees what people are talking about, and there's no question. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. We are now at mayor and council comments. Is there anyone? Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Fairing.
So as Museum Advisory Board liaison, I wanted to remind public and council that tomorrow morning at 8:30 we have our groundbreaking for the final phase of the museum expansion. So if you are able to come join us at the museum, we'll be there at 8:30 for the groundbreaking.
Thank you. Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. I just want to say that dude has a great shirt. Love Thrice. The killer.
That is. That's pretty good. Seeing no one else in the queue, we will go to city manager remarks.
No comments, Mayor, Council.
City attorney.
No comments, Mayor.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn? It's been moved by Councilor McCoy, seconded by myself to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.